happening, everyone? We are back again. I'm gonna have to do some work at some point. I've been working on some building skills and otherwise, and I actually want some more time to do that. But this week, at least, I'm jam packed full of streams every day except tomorrow. I will not be streaming tomorrow, but Friday, coming back with Crypto Kong should be a good one too. And excited about this one. Always like to get Charlie on to talk about ETF stuff, broader macro stuff, PulseChain, of course, as well. So should be a fun stream, but hopefully it'll be you'll get some valuetainment, some value and entertainment as well. And I'll get to chat in just a moment. Before I go any further, though, bring Charlie in. How's it going? Cultivate Crypto, welcome back.
Hey, it's going good. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. There's nothing but sunshine and rainbows, and this ecosystem couldn't be happier and more together. And we're all pulling for each other, and it's just to the moon, man. There's a straight path. Everyone can see clearly. There's no uncertainty, and that's where we're headed. Is that what you're feeling, at least? Not financial advice. Is that what you're feeling now?
Yeah, which is why I'm buying now. Yeah, I think you also actually have that in the macro on crypto right now a little bit as well. You start hearing a little bear talk. When Bitcoin, basically can't make a new high for a couple months in a bull market. People are like, oh shit, we're going to turn down, right? Are we going to get a big dump and stuff like this? So to me, the litmus test for price on both PulseChain and PulseX being kind of the two most important is, can they maintain their lows that they had at the end of last year? If they can maintain those lows, some people have been talking about, a lot of whales. SAC was around, 4 zeros and a 4, which we're above there a little bit right now. So yeah, if we do get support in that area, that would be nice. Do I think that actually matters that much? A little bit, right? But not entire. I don't think it's going to be the narrative that's going to hold up price on that. I think ultimately, it's going to be two things, and it's kind of the next 3 to 4 weeks is really important, right? If I think Bitcoin holds, above 60, 61 to 63K is my target numbers, that it should hold going into July 1st, going to the end of this month, beginning of next month. It's also a changing quarter from Q2 to Q2 to Q3. And so, yeah, if we start seeing a lot of Ethereum ETF hype, which I actually think we're going to on my stream today on my channel, which I'm going to do right after this show here, I'm going to be talking about the Solana ETF. I'm trying to stay an extra step ahead of the market, just a bit. And I think by the end of this year, if not Q1 of next year, we'll have the Solana ETF as well. So I think the accumulation on Ethereum is actually going to start a little bit here before Bitcoin. And into the end of the month, in terms of finding a low, it kind of already has already a bit. And then what we can see kind of as a knock-on effect on PulseChain is, okay, first of all, are the weak hands gone or not is the first question, right? And then the second question is, if they're gone, who's buying, right? So it's just kind of like, I forget what's that. I think it was the movie Half Baked or whatever with Dave Chappelle. Jim Brewer, he's like quitting his job and he's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And then he's like, who's coming with me? And like nobody quits. Like everybody's just like, all right, bro, see you later. But like, it's one of these things where it's like, is anybody going to come over to PulseChain, bring new money in? Are whales going to redistribute that sold already? Are people just going to like bridge their assets off chain, or like, what are people doing, in the next 3 weeks to a month compared to the overall crypto market? It's going to be interesting, because I think PulseX has a really hard time of hitting new lows, but Pulse itself has looks weaker.
Yeah, it feels weird. It feels like a weird time. But also I say that, and then I think in 2020, do you see any similarities with 2020 with 2024 now? It almost feels like in 2020 we're like, oh, what's going to happen? Where's retail? Oh, this is a fake out or something. But how does it feel compared to 2020 right now?
Well, so like we're earlier. We moved earlier in this year than we did in 2020, and also we had the Corona crash in 2020, which kind of like took 2 months off of the year a little bit. Meaning, like, I think we would have because we started pumping in January of 2020 into February. That was the first like altcoin season pump. And then the Corona crash happened in March, and everybody was like, oh, maybe not, right? And kind of like a false start kind of thing. And then we continued, and I think the Corona crash was the blip in the radar, and we would have already been going really strongly February, March, April if that hadn't happened. So if that was 2 months early, then we got the Bitcoin all-time high, I think breaking in the end of November of 2020, if I remember correctly. So let's say that should have, by comparison, that would have happened sometime in September of this year. So, but we got the all-time high in March, right? So we're like 6 months ahead of schedule, I think, on Bitcoin because of the ETF hype that BlackRock has been buying and all these institutions are getting in. And it's very possible that institutions know that. And so therefore, they're like, hey, what's the easiest way to get more coins? Well, maybe we sell some off here at the top, essentially suppress price under the top and kind of reaccumulate there. Like, it doesn't sound like it'd be that big of a difference, but if you're playing with, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, right, that you're putting in at a time, that adds up, right? So they want the cheaper prices. But yeah, I would say, like, if your coin is not pumping, like, first of all, I've kind of put a few different things compared to all altcoins in the market. Is if your coin is not a new coin in this cycle, right? So kind of PulseChain's a little bit different, but for most coins that I would say have existed before Q2 of last year or around there, they should hold their lows from October, September of last year. If they can't, I think it shows extreme weakness in any project that gives back all of its gains that it gained from the ETF hype for Bitcoin, basically.
Wow. And this is something that happened recently too, that the Ethereum tweet from Consensus talking about Ethereum surprise the SEC. Does this make how big a difference does this make? The projects, a lot of them, we saw the SEC talk about, oh, this security, that's security, asking Coinbase, or asking them, or otherwise saying, we think these are that, I don't know, something around delisting. I think they ended up saying, we're going to wait or whatever. Does that affect a lot of the ones that even launched recently versus the ones before? Like, how does it affect the ecosystem in general for Ethereum or ICOs?
In terms of Ethereum being labeled a non-security now?
Yeah, you talked about the ones that, maybe have a better chance of making or not, or showing weakness or not. Does this kind of give even kind of more confidence, or the ones that could have showed more weakness without seeing something like this, a vote of confidence for Ethereum? Does it give some of them a better chance? I mean, you talk about how it helps with PulseChain too. It should. It's interesting.
Yeah, if people are logical and not emotional. We know a lot of the times people buy and sell in emotion and not logic, unfortunately. But logically speaking, yeah, I mean, it should be a major vote of confidence for anything, especially PulseChain, because PulseChain is literally a fork of the latest version of Ethereum, right? And like hasn't done a major change on anything except for its own unique ecosystem of projects since then. So is literally no different than Ethereum. So whatever gets decided on for Ethereum, like legally, right, applies to PulseChain as well. So then it becomes, I think, for Ripple, right, they won their case against the SEC as an organization, but the SEC still continued to go after Brad Glaringhouse, kind of the leader of the organization per se, in order to kind of slander his name, right? But he'll probably get out of his lawsuit as well. So I think the main thing that they try to do after this is continue to go after Richard Hart, of course, for PulseChain. But in terms of anything against, the chain itself, I think, they can't really come at it. So that's good.
When you said Brad Garling, you say Garlinghouse?
I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced. I see the name and I'm like, it's an interesting spelling. So
I can't remember his name. Like it's funny, like because if you watch, so many videos from time to time, he'll say, he'll talk about people, and he'll give them, some of them he'll change their name to be something funny or otherwise. And if I don't know the person beforehand, if I don't know what their actual name is, I just remember them as that name. But this guy, I knew was Brad Garlinghouse, or man, I'm getting mixed. I don't know. That's what I thought it was before. But then I think somebody calls him Brad Garlic Breath or Garlic Bread or something like that. So when you said it, I was like, I can't remember what the guy's name is, because I've heard him, like I've heard it said so many different times other ways.
Yeah. No, I understand. Like, it's all good. But like, so like kind of going back to the first point that I made of like kind of the where prices are at, going into July, logically speaking, right, the narrative should be that Ethereum, is probably going to get some momentum against Bitcoin here going into the ETF approval in July, right? I think July 2nd is very, very likely. What's his name? We should just create names for all these people, but Eric Balchunas, I think is how you pronounce it. He's a senior ETF analyst over at Bloomberg. He's basically said like just before July 4th is the target. So they kind of get it out of their hair before, they go on break essentially. So I was like, okay, that seems legit. And then Gary Gensler himself had said by the end of the summer for sure. So, I would say within July makes a lot of sense. But I think Ethereum, what did you see with Bitcoin last fall, right? You saw kind of, it should have been dumping and yet it didn't. And it just kind of had these days where like it didn't gain too much, but the next day then it jumped, and then it had a few days where it gained a bit, but not too much. And then it jumped. And so like, if we start seeing that on Ethereum going into the end of this month, beginning of July, then you want to start seeing altcoins follow the leader a bit, or at least hold lows, right? So because I do think that the positiveness here for Ethereum should have that knock-on effect, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's funny how the things move so fast with this, where we kind of just woke up. Oh, okay. I remember last time I had you and DCC on, we were talking about August, and that was like the target. That was the one that was okay. We kind of wrote off the whatever it was, a May deadline. Is that what it was at the time?
Well, and there's a couple things that I was just kicking myself for on that one, because I was like, like I had enough information on the May one that I'm like, they could try to sneak it in there, but I really did not think they would actually do that. So like, that's the one thing of, sometimes with all this, it's like the data sometimes points in the direction, that things are likely to go, and they're not just going to say it, right? They're going to try to throw some curveballs in here.
Well, I don't think anyone, it wasn't just you. I don't think anyone expected. We're kind of like, okay, that was not going to happen, but we know the BlackRock, they got the great track record. We're, looking forward to August, all that stuff. And then this happened. So how does it change? Like what you were thinking back then around August? We talked about, maybe this summer, if there's anything building up to the ETF, like it'd be cool if we had a great summer of, Ethereum rising and stuff. Timeline being shifted up where the May thing happened instead of August. Does that, I'm like, are you feeling even more bullish on Ethereum this summer? Like, how does that change things?
On accumulation, yeah. So in holding certain lows, like holding above 3,000 and stuff like that, like I'm more bullish on lows holding, basically. I think more accumulation will happen. The one thing is, because it came out of left field and was a surprise, the market wasn't quite sure how to react. And I think the surprise aspect of it kind of took some wind out of the sails of like the hype aspect of the news, right? Because a lot of the times when that news comes out and it's really hyped, like price just has a bigger reaction basically. So price had a good reaction on the specific day and everything, but it kind of, simmered down after that. So that's why I want to see some like accumulation here going to the end of the month on Ethereum to be like, okay, this is actually going to have some legs versus, if it doesn't really have a good, I would say July or something like that, or if it starts breaking below 3,000 again, or 3,300 for that matter, then you're like, okay, that's kind of a warning sign a little bit that maybe there's a bit more bearishness in the market than we expect. But right now, like I did on my show yesterday give a 10% bear case for like what if the top of this bull market's already in for Bitcoin. And I know how ridiculous that is with all the news that's out there and everything, but like I do think people need to kind of just watch for various scenarios this bull market, because and I don't think that's likely one at all, but it's just like pretty much you have to, after 2022, right, and then kind of Wall Street coming in and changing the game a bit, you have to pretty much look at everything as a possibility, whether you want that to happen or not. Because I think a lot of people kind of stick with the old narratives too much, and I don't think it's going to change too much. I don't think it's going to be a big difference in the rhythm of the market, but there's going to be some surprises this bull market that like the fundamental news of bullishness of that logically might not fit up with the emotion of kind of how it gets set up by Wall Street, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've had all kinds of just good news as far as, I mean, throughout the year. This year we had Bitcoin ETF, which that was when it happened. We're like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening, that kind of thing. But then when it happened after that, there's been ups and downs, SEC here and there. But then, we got, Trump coming out as, saying I'm the pro crypto candidate. Maybe we'll see what.
Amazing. Like that, like the geopolitical aspect of crypto now, like globally, is kind of insane. Like that's like, like there's so many things that have happened, in the last, 6 months or 1 year that I've just like, to be honest, I would never have expected this, which is
politicians competing for votes for crypto people. Like that's
Biden said he's going to fucking start taking donations on Coinbase Commerce now. And I'm like, LOL, I'm just like, he's just following the leader on that. But it's just, yeah, it's kind of crazy from Biden because he actually has Elizabeth Warren plus some people in his cabinet that actually from, I think Caitlin Long mentioned this and actually had some evidence to prove it, that basically it was January of 23, they started a campaign against crypto essentially. And they were trying to, I think they were doing it in favor of Gary Gensler to try to get, more emotional support on the back of what he was trying to do, in slowing down crypto. And then they just got steamrolled, which is fantastic.
You're getting sued. You're getting sued. Everyone's getting sued. It's like, man, what that doesn't even feel right when it happens. How are you like, who is like cheering for that? Like who, I mean, I know obviously people with an agenda, but like anyone else who can just look at it and be like, okay, does this make sense? Or anyone else who, wants their bags to go up. It seems like there'd just be a lot more people, against that and wanting it to be the other way. Like this reversal, if that's what we got, feels like a natural thing now looking at, I guess, in hindsight.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of want to call Biden a reptilian of some sort, when you see him like turn around and be like, "Oh, I'll take the crypto," you dumbasses, I'm gonna fucking outlaw this shit, or I'll try to, it's like,
yeah.
So, like, if the Democrats in the next 3 to 6 months going into the election try to like change their tune and be like, "Oh yeah, we're pro crypto," I'd be like, I really don't know about that. Like, it's just like, not, you don't trust any of these goddamn politicians, but specifically like and Trump's doing it because he's actually gotten on the train a lot sooner. It's kind of like Michael Saylor, Fidelity, these kind of traditional organizations back in 2011. Michael Saylor actually put out a tweet saying like Bitcoin's trash, basically, but Fidelity at that point got into Bitcoin, as an institution. They were one of the first ones, and then 10, 15 years later, Michael Saylor becomes the biggest bull for crypto or Bitcoin specifically. And, Fidelity's, gone through with ETFs and stuff like that. So it's interesting to kind of watch how people change their stance on certain things over time. But like going towards an election, particularly, I'm like, okay, who was the first one to at least, actually interact with crypto? And I'm like, yeah, Trump's NFTs are probably more of a money grab than anything, but I mean, you gotta hand it to him to actually, getting involved in the space.
Well, for some reason, I keep thinking the debate coming up in, is it July or end of June?
Oh, I don't even know it. Like that, Biden and Trump.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm
fantastic. Like, this is better than Conor McGregor was going to be fighting at the UFC at the end of this month. I'm like, shit, I got more popcorn ready for Biden versus Trump. That's just going to be a beatdown.
You know what? Like, okay, I don't know why I keep thinking this. There's got to be something good for. I keep thinking maybe this is good for crypto. If one of them happens to fall asleep during the debate, like, is this like, are we going to get like this? Okay, now this is the time. He's making the call. Instead of dump it the other way, pump it. Like, we're going all the way to the election. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Come on, some something good. Be like the Biden perpetual dump futures, or
Wow, it just seems like I don't know. I don't know why that makes me think that'll be a sign for crypto, but maybe it'll just be.
I think it'll be interesting because, like, how many times during a presidential debate have we ever had crypto mentioned? And I think I would actually like to see if Robert Kennedy gets involved in any of the debates, because he actually has, like, I guess the most interesting part is who is talking to who in these backgrounds, right? Because I would say on the Democrat Biden side, you probably have more connections to Sam Bankman-Fried and that camp, and having had discussions with them back in 2022. And then when that went south, they got kind of turned sour to it. That kind of makes sense to me. And then on Trump, we have, I think he met with the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, plus it was one other person. I can't remember off the top of my head, but somebody maybe related to Consensus, I think. And then Robert Kennedy, I do not know who he talked with, but he was at the 2023 Bitcoin conference in Miami, and he gave a speech specifically on Bitcoin. And he kind of sounded like he had sound bites from, the Bitcoin Maxi main camp, kind of like the Eric Voorhees and Roger Ver and, the traditional, Bitcoin group of people, maybe Max Kaiser. I don't know. I don't know if you talked to Michael Saylor or not, but he's clearly reading off a speech during that somebody else had prompted for him, but that he absorbed those points over time. So it's just kind of interesting to be like, okay, who's pulling whose strings or who's giving who the talking points, because how they discuss it. And I think Trump and Kennedy probably have the best actual understanding of it. And so if they talk about it more positively or whatever over the next 3 to 6 months, I think that actually can be a very big positive for crypto to change a little bit of the way America views it. That actually could be the start of a retail pump in a way, because, well,
right.
Yeah. I mean, the one narrative on Trump, right? I think, like somebody asked like 50 Cent, like, who are you voting for? And he's like, I don't know. But he was like, well, do you think you would vote for Trump? And he's like, well, yeah, he's on trumped up charges or on RICO charges or whatever. I kind of think like him against the system is a good match, essentially, is what he said, something like that, But it's kind of like the everybody going against the grain a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, crypto is that negative. Everybody's had a shit view of it. But if somehow those two candidates change everybody's view on it to be like, oh no, people have just been giving crypto a bad rap for a long time, it could go with that narrative. Actually, it's the same as, going against the system to some extent, which, is a narrative that the politicians are trying to push. So I could actually see that playing out, which would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you got presidents talking about crypto in a positive light and saying, no matter if they meet it or not, saying like good things about it, how is that not an onboarding tool, a marketing tool, a sentiment, at least provocateur? Like, at least be like, hey, if you're on the fence, well, the presidents have made it an issue. Why'd they do that? A lot of people must be into it. They must care about it for a reason. Maybe it's not that bad.
Who's that one person that's into it now that also took a picture with the new president of Mexico, who got appointed after murdering 30 to 90, of their closest competitors? Oh yeah, that was Larry Fink. Oh, I wonder why they might be talking about it now. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know what news channel you're subscribing to, sir, but I don't know. Don't tell me.
It's called Twitter. No. Which I would say about 95% of Twitter is trash, but hey.
We're gonna get into that. But first, Ethereum shrinking supply chain, holdings market bullish trend. That's one thing we talked about yesterday on the stream with Axis and Crispy, was the lack of it being available to buy. And funny enough, it seems like some whales earlier this year had scooped some up, and maybe with foresight, maybe not. But that, how much do you think that plays into it? Literally, if there are, if people all of a sudden do want to start buying it, retail or just institutions or otherwise, the lack of supply being there, is that because people don't want to get rid of it right now, like, and they want the price to pump and they want to wait for it to go up? Like, what do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I do think it is mainly hodlers, right? Like, people being like, okay, like, this is clearly the next rotation here, So, yeah, I think it's just as simple as that. I don't think it's too complex, but I mean, Ethereum, like, I think it's pretty obvious that Ethereum like is just going to follow Bitcoin. So everybody's like, okay, Bitcoin's done these gains this year. Ethereum's still lagging behind. The one thing I will say that I see, like, in some crypto circles, right? Like, some people are trying to call like the bottom of the ETH to Bitcoin ratio and stuff like this, which I think is, guessing exactly when it's going to turn around is like a different question. But yeah, I think everybody knows it will eventually. And it's kind of the same thing as what you were saying before. Like, what's the difference between this and 2020? I remember in 2020, we did our first crypto mindset course in September of 2020, and we recommended Ethereum at the time and said, hey, get into Ethereum. It's a really good project. Get into it over Bitcoin. Throughout Q4, the end of that year, Bitcoin was still outpacing Ethereum for the most part, but Ethereum was kind of like this, being accumulated, right, being held, but price wasn't going up. I think at the time Ethereum it'd gone from $80 at the end of the bear market to, at that time, maybe 250, 300. We accumulated at 300. By the end of the year, I can't remember, I think Bitcoin had gone from 9,000 to 18, maybe 20,000, starting to break out into new all-time highs, and people were like, where's Ethereum? It's like only like $450 or something. And then it went to like $1,200 right after that. And like, then it started to pump like crazy at the end of 2020. So I do think by Q4 of this year, I mean, all of this bullishness that you have, kind of accumulating under Ethereum kind of just like has so much tinder underneath it that it has to, like, nothing ever has to happen, but that it almost has to take off by that point, because it does seem like, again, this cycle's a little bit earlier than the last one.
And just talking to PulseChain about this too, do you think that, I mean, for the next month or two, or whenever we, whenever, if and when we see Ethereum running up, is that what we're waiting on? Are we waiting on just like that to happen, and then retail is that going to mark retail coming in? Is that like what kind of like pieces do we need? Because right now, it just certainly feels like PvP. It's like, man, we're doing all we can to onboard. Like, what do we need? Is that what it's just right now? It's just, we're kind of just like, we're like waddling around. Hey, we're doing the best we can, and the retail's just not here yet. So is that what's going on?
Yeah, new retail, right? So I think, yeah, it is almost as easy, I think, as just Ethereum needs to be at $5,000 plus, new all-time high, right? So if Ethereum gets to a new all-time high, all of a sudden, everybody's like, shit, rampant speculation. Let's go and, start looking at this and that and the other thing. And you get, it's kind of like that irrational exuberance that you get from the crypto natives. We have certain markers and benchmarks and signs that we need to hit before all of a sudden everybody just gets irrationally bullish. And that's one of them. So I think, Ethereum going to new all-time highs, all of a sudden NFTs stop being like total shit, as well, because those are just continuing to lose their ass. And like, NFTs turning around is the sign of like, oh shit, okay, how much time do we have left in this bull market? So then you start counting down, right? So it's like, it's one of these things where it's like, you're almost, never happy. It's like, the market's just like, it's either, building up or, it's breaking down. So yeah, I think, I think that should happen by the end of the year. The warning sign to me will be if, Bitcoin has trouble making new all-time highs by the end of August. I would say that's a little bit of an uh-oh.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, like, why wouldn't it happen? Like, why wouldn't we get this, kind of like, okay, everything's just going like it's just any other cycle. Maybe we started a little bit early or otherwise, but it's like, okay, accumulation, Bitcoin, I assume you've seen the chart of like, okay, Bitcoin, and then it falls into Ethereum, then it flows into more, risk on and all that stuff. Is it like, why wouldn't that happen this time? I see celebrities are in right now. Is that the sign of the end of time? Like, are they just early?
Yeah, I think they are a little bit early because they've been around a cycle, right? A lot of them who are doing that. But so, yeah, no, I think like for the most part, like 90%, like it's going to happen. So we're good. It's just, there's never a guarantee on anything, right? If I'm looking at it from the perspective of like a fundamental reason, like on chain or how crypto is built, there shouldn't be any fundamental reason why crypto would tank or anything like that. It would be something outside of crypto, most likely either, the stock market not performing well, plus like a black swan event, like those two double whammies, plus, inflation getting back out of control or something. And then, the Fed has to kind of, hit the emergency button, which, could temporarily, could be a fake out too, because then once they turn the money printer back on, then that maybe creates a higher bottom. It's hard to say like how that would happen, but I think understanding that scenario is possible, and then seeing markers come around being like, that's pointing that direction. That's kind of how you have to look at it, because you're never going to be able to predict it. You're just going to be able to be like, okay, what are the signs? What's the data? Where is the data most heavily leaning towards, right? And right now, I think it's massively leaning towards the bullish side. So I'm not really worried about that aspect that much.
Gotcha. That's what we want to hear, man. Tell us all we want to hear. Why don't you tell us something that's...
I don't know how that translates to PulseChain. That's the question, right? So that's the $1 million question, really. I do think, the community is smart enough to defend those lows in price for PulseChain, but whether they do it or not is a different question.
I mean, that's actually a good segue too, just into
this
onboarding. Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I've been doing a little bit more blockchain dev stuff, and I came across, there's various different things. I did playlists and media and tweets and that side of it too. But I'm also thinking, and then Go Real DeFi, of course, for making it easy to use the apps. But then I'm thinking even further of what kind of stuff, centralized exchanges versus getting people into DeFi versus bridges versus faucets and stuff like that. What are the in your mind, when you're trying to when you are onboarding people? I mean, you've got courses and you've been working with people for a long time, a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
What are the areas that would be useful that we don't have already, or is there a top pieces of I guess what are the best funneling methods to getting people in and having the best experience and letting them test out PulseChain and stuff? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, always price pumping is always the easiest way to get people into the chain, right? And so, it's just that's not happening at the moment. So then you're like, okay, what else can we do? But I would say we don't reinvent the wheel. Like what you're doing here, just go back to the origin days of Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, and be like, okay, how did we engage people when it was just magic internet money? Because PulseChain is just magic internet money right now, right? There's a few useful things built in the ecosystem which are very cool. But we're still building, right? It's like a work in progress. And if you look at this guy from 2017 called Murad, he had a pretty good explanation of kind of adoption over time from something going from a digital collectible to a accepted form of money, and all the steps that you have to go in between there. And we're at the very beginning of that. We're just it's a digital collectible. It's a beanie baby. How people use it will be determined later, kind of thing. And every asset in crypto has to start at that point and then, gain from there. So it's really, I do think, Richard Hart challenging the community to be like, hey guys, fucking, build some shit, because building is the only way that you're really going to get a lot of stuff going. And so, attracting devs, I guess you'd maybe be able to speak a little bit more to that too, in terms of what's most attractive to devs, what kind of problems is it learning, certain types of things they can do. Is it maybe this is a testnet they can build some things that they don't want to put on Ethereum right away, or kind of different things like that. But in terms of the faucet itself, I just like the idea because it does remind me of the early days of Bitcoin. And I guess the other question I would have on that is with the faucet, how do you stop people from gaming the faucet with bots and just stealing money, and then all the money that is there for people just evaporates and obviously doesn't get used by who needs it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been always a question. It's okay, I think there's been multiple faucets before. I feel like GoPulse used to have a faucet too, but I checked the website recently. I didn't see it. Okay, well, maybe it's not there for some reason. Maybe because it's hard to stop people from abusing or otherwise. Right. But I think that it does feel like that to me. I guess the question to you too, if there was a reliable PulseChain faucet that did work and do all that stuff, would you would you send it to people? Would you be like, hey, here, try out PulseChain? All you have to do is, if you have a wallet, create a wallet or not, and just go to this website. It will send you some for free.
Yeah, well, I would I'd like some it's kind of like a lead magnet, and then I want that lead magnet to have multiple follow-ups or auto okay, you did this, great. Now what's the next step? So for example, it's you want to use Pulse. We have a faucet. Do you have MetaMask? Yes, I have MetaMask. Okay, great. Connect it here, get some free Pulse. Here's how you input the RPC so you can see your free money. Great. People do those two steps. They hit the pigeon button and they get the treat. And great. Oh, this is cool. What's the next thing, right? You need to have whatever the next thing is after that, which is you want to bridge over some more assets. Now you have some PulseChain, so you'll be able to transact as soon as you get over. How do you, what's the cheapest way to bring over $100, and then have a tutorial on something like that. I think Crypto Coffee has some good videos that could be linked to. I know you have some good videos that can be linked to. And so it's one of these things where it's just kind of keep pulling them, and like, okay, after they bridge over, what do they need to do next? And then I know you have, some websites that kind of show the different tools and things people can use, and then you lead them to that. And then, people get curious as they get kind of led on the cookie crumbs or the breadcrumbs, into the treat in the maze, I guess you could say. So obviously it's like a funnel. Each section of that funnel, you're going to get less and less people to take the next step, but then you can kind of get some data, right? Like, okay, how many people are coming into this funnel? Did we do something to promote the chain that all of a sudden got a lot of people coming into the funnel? Let's do that again. Treat it a little bit like a business. I mean, it's more like a DAO at this moment. But like maybe creating a DAO for something like that, being like, hey, this is the PulseChain evangelist DAO or something, right? And any money that's in this treasury will be voted on to how much should we put towards a faucet? How much should we put towards, getting a NASCAR with PulseChain written on the side of it or something, like whatever, happens. I know that would engage a community a little bit more. And then, also giving community members that are already in PulseChain more steps to get other people into the ecosystem that are easy to do. Like, hey, all you need to do is give them this link, or all you need to do is give them this, and like just give them the easy sales pitch. It's kind of like you have a sales team, and whenever you have a sales team, it's kind of like the movie Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street when he, gets all those guys on the phone, and it's just like you just got to give people like a script. Like, hey, here's the 5 to 10 things you need to say about PulseChain. I know you already understand them, but like this is an easy way to kind of say it to people, and then here's some links and here's some flyers, and go out there and evangelize, and then you get some rewards on the PulseChain Evangelist DAO if you do so, or something. I don't know how all that would be tracked, but just as an example, like those types of creative moves are maybe what needs to happen, at a grassroots level a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like your point of it being part of another process. But I think it could be even a tool of, because if I think about onboarding people, okay, how do we do it? Okay, we tell them how to use MetaMask, tell them go get Coinbase to get ETH to to bridge over whatever, or we say, okay, go to use fiat on ramp, whatever we have available there, or go to centralized exchange, buy it there, and then maybe learn how to do DeFi after that. If there was just a way, again, like I just thinking of like faucets to me always seem like that thing that to bootstrap the network. Hey, here's some stuff, use it, or on a test net, right? You need a test net faucet to get stuff, because how can you get it otherwise? But also, like, why wouldn't it be a part of just like, why wouldn't there always be faucets available? Assuming that they work properly and they didn't just get drained and stuff. Maybe you need to experiment and test them a little bit to make sure they work okay, and they're not just going to like go away because people abuse them. But like, why wouldn't that be part of a process? Like, hey, here's the easiest way to get PulseChain. You don't have to buy it. Just go to a faucet and get it'll give you a little bit, and now you can go make some transactions, see if you want to. And after that, if you want to get more, here's how you can buy it. Why wouldn't it be like one of those, get a taste of it, see if you like it, and then get more if you want?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's always a great way to get people in. Also, getting more devs in, getting more people to build on the chain is useful too. So like BNB, right? Binance chain, why it's just a copy of ETH as well. Why was it successful? Why is it still here? Obviously, they have billions of dollars from the company itself from revenue generation that they can use to buy up their own token to support price. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, is they also bribed a bunch of projects that weren't necessarily good projects from Ethereum ICOs to come over onto Binance chain, and just that brought a lot of development work over because people wanted the brand of Binance related to them because they weren't going to pay the money to get listed on the Binance exchange itself, right? So, hey, we can bring our DeFi project over there. Great. So what's the, what's the, I don't know, the calling card or the sales pitch for developers outside of PulseChain to come over? Like, what's unique about PulseChain? Like, the only thing I can think of right now to get developers over is, hey, there's obviously a huge community that wants to support a project. So far, I don't know which projects are going to be at the end of the day, but so far you got a lot of vampires coming over with that sales pitch being like, oh, so you're saying I can just come over and drain money out of the ecosystem. I don't know how many projects were actually at the end of the day will actually end up that is what they have done. Hopefully not many, but it seems like there's a good chunk of that being a possibility already. So then it's like, maybe the other advantage of them coming over to PulseChain is, hey, it's cheap. You can build a lot of stuff here easily. and then you can deploy it on Ethereum later, like kind of like a layer 2 solution a little bit. Matic, for example, rebranded itself as layer 2 for Ethereum, and then out of nowhere it started doing well, right? So if you're positive to other stuff in crypto like Ethereum, which Richard Hart buying a good chunk of Ethereum, in the ecosystem, helps lean towards that a little bit. So maybe that's a possibility too. But like, what do you think in terms of like getting developers interested in building on PulseChain? Because I think that's, on any L1, if you look at it, developer activity is a huge sign of success usually.
Yeah, that makes me think of just like, why do people come to PulseChain in the first place? Not just builders. Like, wait, you come here because you think there's opportunities, you think that there's a community you like the values or otherwise. And then when you get into, okay, why would people come and build here? Well, one of the biggest reasons that attracted people to come here before it was even launched was, hey, they smelled money, they smelled opportunity, they smelled new chain, they smelled start from zero, try to get 10,000x, try to get, all that stuff. But I think, and there's people here, right? Like, why don't people just build stuff on any other chain other than Ethereum or Solana or PulseChain? We got a lot of builders, we got a lot of products on here already. Why do people come here anyway, whether they're for good intentions or bad intentions or otherwise? Because there's people here, and if you build a really good product, people seem to, I've heard people talk about this before. Like, if you build something on PulseChain and stuff too, why wouldn't people come here and support it? Especially if you're, a lot of people like you building on the blue chips, if you're building derivatives for Hex or otherwise, or you're doing something to help PulseChain. I've talked about like all the steps I do to evaluate the projects that I like or support or promote, because I think they're good for the blue chips, or I think they provide utility, or I think they lock up TVL, or I think they have some massive onboarding opportunities, stuff like that. So for builders, I think the question is, I think for any builder on any network, it really comes down to like, am I going to get rewarded? Am I going to get rewarded for monetarily because people are going to participate? Am I going to get rewarded with status or otherwise because I can come and bring value to the network and people really appreciate it? Or am I going to get rewarded with doing this product? I don't think it's going to work anywhere else. I think this is the place for it. I think I can cultivate other ideals and continue building and work with other people, like the community aspect too. That kind of reward, or just sense of I can come here and not get ran out of town. I can come here and like actually do the work I want to do. Those kind of rewards, I would say, for builders are probably the most important I can think of.
Yeah, and like then also encouraging people maybe who haven't done stuff before, that have the capability of it too, right? Like, hey, you're a new dev, you're gonna have more room for error here, or something like a little bit of like a sandbox type vibe, I don't know, like I feel like the meme projects are trying to do that a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of it'll be interesting to see how the narrative all plays out. I mean, at the end of the day, the easiest thing is get Richard Hart back on YouTube and price goes to $1 million, or whatever, it's just
it'd be nice to have our biggest marketer back marketing. That would be nice to have.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the reason people bought into the chain is it's a confidence play in, hey, you did it once, I think you can do it again. Really.
Well, and I say that too, just as a community member. Like, it doesn't need to be. I mean, there's all kinds of founders who, yeah, maybe Vitalik goes to conferences and he writes blogs and he does a lot of amazing stuff. But even with Richard, I kind of think of him as in a lot of ways a community member, just being like, hey, the loudest voice type of thing, the person who knows how this stuff works and can market it. And it's not that entrepreneur effort type of stuff. More than what I'm saying is he's the biggest guy in the room type of thing, of like the biggest community member we could possibly ask for, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I like that about it, and I don't think a lot of chains have that. Not somebody who has that kind of gravitas.
No, the ones who do, like, I mean, Cardano's run off of that for years, right? Like Charles Hoskinson is one of the best, I would say, hype men all of crypto without doing shit. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh, but because they do a lot of work in the background and stuff like that. But in terms of actually
like to fight for freedom, I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. The way that he fights for crypto on Capitol Hill and stuff like that, I respect the shit out of that. So I can't say anything, bad about it, except for the fact that, it's just a fact that they haven't come out with as many projects. It just is what it is. But they also, the advantage for Cardano is they have a bunch of whales, including exchanges, I mean, the exchange game and getting exchanges to list your coins, but then also having some market makers on the centralized side of things. That's an advantage that any centralized exchange-based tokens have over ones that are pure DeFi. Because pure DeFi, yeah, you have your automated market makers and everything, but you don't have, I mean, a lot of it's a fact that probably a lot of people in crypto don't want to talk about it, is that, you know, you do get a lot of market makers who are incentivized to pump up it or hold up certain price points on coins, you know, whether that's market manipulation, I don't know. A lot of them aren't based in the United States who do that. But having that type of ally on price is usually pretty nice. And you can have that as a DeFi project if you have some, you know, listings on centralized exchanges and have have a market maker that has that incentive. But there's only a handful of those in crypto that have any large influence and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that seems unlikely to happen. But that would be another not easy fix, but it would be a quick fix if it were to happen. And once that would something like that happen, it immediately change, I think, the aspect of the game.
Well, yeah,
Richard has enough funds to pay for that. That's for damn sure. But he ain't going to, I don't think.
Excited to see RH more active, more than tweets. I do like the tweets from time to time. Some of them, you know, are pretty interesting, and I do like the kind of like leading the trail of. Yeah, but of course, yeah. One day, hopefully, if we're so lucky, maybe, I don't know. It'd be nice. Anyway,
that'd be cool, like to see him like put funds towards stuff to build the ecosystem, but like in a way that he has plausible deniability that it's not him. You know, that would be nice. I don't know if that's possible, but you know, because then he could be like, oh, there's some Santa Claus, you know, guy coming around and whale, you know, adding stuff to the chain or whatever.
There's probably legit ways, I'm sure. I mean, he is channeled could be one of the best legal. We'll see. One of the best legal teams that we hope is one of the best legal teams that we've ever seen. So I imagine counsel is good.
Yeah, I think their case is getting easier too, which is great. I do like to see, you know, the fire whale and different whales in the ecosystem, you know, basically coming in and trying to do things, trying to, you know, shake things up a little bit. Because I haven't seen too many whales in the ecosystem that are like top whales get involved. I know I've seen other ecosystems in the past where, let's say, let's say 10 of the top 30 whales, for example, you know, are kind of they join forces like Power Rangers and say, hey, we're gonna, you know, promote this narrative in terms of, hey, you know, trying to get a cheerleading squad essentially together that's going to try to move things in a certain direction, right? I think right now you have people fighting for attention amongst, you know, it's like you said, it's player versus player, not only on price action, but also attention of people in the ecosystem. And so when you have that fracturedness, it's going to be harder to kind of get everybody kind of moving in that one direction, because that's the thing is like, why is Richard coming back useful in terms of on YouTube and stuff? It's because then, you know, he herds all the sheep, really.
He could motivate. Yeah, he could motivate a lot of things to happen. I mean, just it's something that's kind of like
we could have that from the whales too. Is what I'm trying to say. Is like, but it'd be like you have to have like if you have Richard Hart, you know, does it himself versus 10 whales doing it. You know, is also possible. But I think the only whales, not whales, I guess the only guppies that have tried to form a whale together that I've seen usually have done so for their own benefits only and not the benefits of the entire ecosystem. Not really to pump price, but to try to take advantage of price and sell on top of people. And so when you see that happening, yeah, like I said, you kind of have to get people, you know, really thinking towards that, you know, less scarcity mindset together. And I just, the scarcity mindset is pretty much the main sentiment right now.
Yeah, hopefully the pendulum has swung too far, and hopefully we'll correct in the upwards direction. That'd be nice.
No, I think we will. It's just like, yeah, it's like it's the same thing as like the Bitcoin obituaries, right? Like how many times did we write the Bitcoin obituaries? Oh, Bitcoin was dead because XYZ. Oh, Bitcoin died again this year. You know, all the mainstream media says that. I mean, as long as you have certain checkpoints hold for PulseChain, I think generally speaking, you know, we'll look back at this and laugh and be like, you know, it'll be a bonding.
That sucked, but hey, look, we're cool now. That'd be nice.
Well, yeah, but also, do you remember when we went through that shit together, bro? Like we were in the trenches and like we all, you know, survived, and all those motherfuckers who left and talk shit about the whole
the deepest and thickest of FUD.
Exactly, right. And then now we're here, and you know, it's like the Shawshank Redemption. You know, came out cleaner on the other side, and so like, I think that redemption arc would be something that kind of solidifies the community to be able to withstand the next bear market, and then come out and like PulseChain in the next bull market. I think would do even better, because as a layer one, it is harder to get everybody in one direction because you have more options in an ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I mean that does sound glorious, I would say. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, everyone likes the story of like going down so far and then just being like, no, you know, we're right. That's all the hashtag. I was trying to get a hashtag mentioned it yesterday on the stream too, about hashtag Richard Hart will be right. Said Richard Hart was right. Richard Hart will be right. Like I want to get that momentum. And yeah, if glory does come, man, that's going to be the definition of the word. Real quick before we move on though to with the poll. Do you want to answer the poll? I never like to answer my own polls, and I usually ask chat. But since you're here, would you like to answer that? No, just honestly, go either way. It's fine.
Yeah, why not?
All right. You've now committed to that, along with 34% of other people on Twitter. There you go.
Scarcity mindset reigns.
No obligations. No obligations. Well, if such a thing materializes.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, could be $10 because, you know, to do a few transactions on chain is really cheap. So, you know, like I think there's some people that are like, I've already thrown all my money in the ecosystem, I can't spare anymore. It's like, you know, doesn't have to be a lot for everybody, right?
If there was a, you know, if such a faucet materialized and there was a, you know, no expectations, you know, no returns, no, this is complete like donation, here's an address, just donate to whatever you want, you know, PLS. If such a thing did happen, it would totally not even need that much, because each person using it would be set up, I imagine it'd be set up in a way where it would just give out just enough to do a few transactions or otherwise. And yeah, for like $10 for the pulse would go. It sounds like 100 different people using the faucet. That sounds like plenty. So it wouldn't be, no one's asking anything in the first place. But if there was a place to send it, nobody would have to feel like they need to put like $1,000 for the pulse or like 500. I know everyone is tired of, you know, sacking and giving away coins and all that stuff too. But again, this is, I think, as a community,
and they should be, right? They should be having that feeling. Totally. Like I understand that 100%.
So people who want to give can give, and people don't want to give, totally fine. There's no sort of, I never like any kind of obligation for anything, but not for myself, and I don't. So it wouldn't be that kind of thing if it was.
Yeah,
anyways,
well, and that's the thing.
34% of people who said yes.
Yeah, and like it's a decentralized group effort, so it's always good.
Yeah. Let's hit real quick for you. We'll wrap up in a few minutes or so. But I wanted to, I was talking to you in the green room, and Gerardo has done it again. Look into Hex V3. V3, everyone. Check this out. If you haven't been to look into Hex at all, boys, girls, everyone out there, you should check it out. Put this in the chat. It has only gotten better. There was I guess there was a V1, which was a real old version. I remember V2 using it from time to time, and then V3, man. One of the things I was telling Charlie about too, if you go to liquidity, this is a feature that I know some sites may have had already. I'm not sure, but I love the way, you know, of course, graphically beautiful. I love the distribution, all that stuff too. But if you scroll down, you can actually see where the liquidity is so this is Hex, you know, look into Hex, right? This is Hex centric and all that. But you can see where the liquidity is for Hex, and on the chains and the different dexes and the pairs and the numbers and the bid ask, all that stuff. And it's like, wow, you can see the total number. Anyone, you know, how much liquidity does Hex have? You know, around 20 million. So just a beautiful layout. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. I mean, Gerardo's always good at making UI look pretty nice and making everything organized and easy to kind of see. So even if some of the data is on other places, like it's always nice to have like a central point, where, oh, that's another resource, right? And it overlaps with other stuff. So, look into bitcoin.com, which I know the name kind of plays on that, is one of the better sites for that, with on-chain data from Philip Swift. I think he created that in 2018 or 19. And so, I think stuff like this is massively useful for the ecosystem, just to kind of, the more data you can kind of give people, and the more things you can kind of click around, play with, and kind of look at, try to understand the ecosystem, I think the better, because these types of tools are, I think, useful for piquing people's interest, especially crypto natives.
Yeah, hopefully I'm going to get I'll try to get Gerardo, see if he wants to come on stream sometime and go through it. Yeah, really appreciate people making these sites, and everyone. By the way, if anyone is curious about all the different stat sites and all that stuff, go Real DeFi, go to Learn to Earn, and then under that, click the third one from the bottom, Stats. And I've tried to aggregate, and other people have made aggregations of different resources too. But yeah, I've tried to put all the different pieces that show like hex data, PulseChain stuff, the hex white paper, the closest thing to it. Yeah, look into hex is right there as well. The different, be able to search the old Telegram is on here. Is that like hex.pub, I think. The hexsearch.io to look up streaming stuff for Richard streaming, hex, stakehex.today, all the old sites, news sites, different pieces that are really good for data are listed on here. So yeah, it's under stats. I'll drop in the chat too. I'll drop the direct link, but that's something I put together because I was like, man, I'm tired of, I have like this doc and bookmarks everywhere. And I'm like, man, I bet a lot of people never even heard of some of this stuff. So let me just do this Bento thing and put them all there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just that simple stuff, like just being like, hey, this is a bunch of useful resources. Like, the community needs stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, speaking of what the community needs, we'll wrap up on that. What does the community need, Charlie? Like, what are we missing? Why is everyone, we know everyone's sad, price down, blah, blah, blah. But like, how do we stop from one, like all the people who want to bring positivity? How do you, that's the tricky part. It's like, cause I could say, okay, just get off Twitter, stop engaging. But then all the people who actually are bringing value to the table as far as like, positive mindset, or at least neutral. You don't have to be positive, just be neutral and just be like, helping engagement and all that stuff. A lot of those people, if they did that, then we would lose them too. So it's kind of like that negative. I don't want to get in that negative spiral of just like losing the people who actually want to contribute or are good for, provide good engagement stuff too. But also, how do we get to a place where we're not just like making people not incentivized to even engage and participate and create content, because it's getting to a point where, you can only mute and block and just not get on Twitter or not engage in all these different ways. How do we get back to a point where everyone feels, rewarded for kind of doing what we all used to do, which is like, spreading the good word about this stuff?
Yeah. I think you're going to have some sort of fractionalization that always is going to be here in this community compared to what it had been before when it was just hex. So I think people need to get used to the, I guess, competing narratives, you could say, a little bit. So that's one thing. I don't think it's ever going to kind of go back to the way it was exactly, just because when you have one asset, it's easy to say, hey, everybody just buy this and talk about this, right? But then people get bored of that eventually. And so when people get bored of it, then what do, right? You create, another, narrative that's basically going to get them interested. So, but the narrative behind PulseChain, originally, right, we tried to be like, well, it's better than Ethereum. It's faster, it's cheaper. Well, Solana kind of took the wind out of that, and, a few other chains. So it's like, okay, well, what's the rallying cry? What's the marketing pitch, to to everybody in the space, but then also people outside of the space that is like, that's why do you need to be here, right? And I think if it's going to happen organically, it's going to take a while, because it just needs to happen based on building that's done in the ecosystem, mostly. And like I said before, kind of maybe multiple, whales or whatever kind of getting together and kind of forming that. So in terms of community, in terms of sentiment, narrative, stuff like that, like the soft stuff, you kind of need that. And it's really easy for a community to kind of pick up on a narrative. But yeah, when you have, the infighting, it doesn't really work. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect, I guess, is just the technical side of just like, useful stuff. The more useful stuff there is that's built, the better. So, yeah. And then maybe alliances. I think the one thing that would be very interesting are alliances to other chains or projects on other chains. That's something that I think a lot of people have kind of looked for on PulseChain. There's a few projects I think that have a potential to kind of come over and try to use PulseChain, and like they can do it in a way that if it fails on PulseChain, it's not that big of a deal because they're all already multi-chain projects anyway. So I think those types of projects, the ones that are like, hey, I'm on AVAX, Phantom, Ethereum, and Solana and Base. Well, why don't you have your project on PulseChain too? Pitching to those types of projects, I think, is the best Goldilocks zone because those ones have the least kind of disincentive to come over, because a lot of them, they're just worried, well, what if we come over and it ruins our project or get a bad rap or whatever? Well, if you're on 5 other chains, then who cares, right? You're just trying to get on as many chains as possible, and people are okay with that, right? So as long as you can kind of get the community or get other projects to kind of come over a little bit more officially, that would, I think, also be something that could be a narrative that boosts the ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of stuff that the ecosystem can do, and I think we're doing some of it. But yeah, just the same as when Bitcoin was in the early days, it's not an easy road, and Bitcoin almost went to zero many times first. So just it's part of the game.
Is it just I'm just thinking too, just aligning interests, aligning incentives.
Right.
I mean, before it feels like everyone was just, the price was going up, or we have a new exciting thing to look forward to, PulseChain. Everyone just kind of came together naturally because, oh, this is going to be great. We're all, whether you thought it was going to do really well at the start or not, you had the hopes there, or you just thought, hey, there's just something, I just want to participate. I just like being in the community because people are building. Oh my gosh, we're going to go build all these new products. But now it's kind of like, okay, price is down. What am I here for? Am I here for, if I was here for price go up, then, well, that has happened for a while. If I'm here for, now I got to go through this SEC stuff, and now I just hope this turns out well, kind of thing. And then you look around, you're like, okay, well, where's all the money? Like, where are all the new users? I thought we were going to get all these new users. I thought world's largest airdrop, that, where's that narrative? Like, why hasn't that played out, as well as we thought it would yet? Jury's still out. We still got some time. So you're kind of looking around, then you're like, okay, well, there's these new groups, and then the groups form different factions and stuff. And I think a lot of that's healthy. I think a lot of that, again, I talked about it before. I would imagine Richard thought about that too, of it just isn't just Hex anymore. We have this new ecosystem, have all these builders. In order to grow, we sort of, the products are going to have to grow too. And I think maybe the disconnect there is maybe it'll be easier if we felt like there wasn't this value extraction. Right. Maybe it's like this almost skeptical, like every new thing is going to take away instead of add. When, sometimes that's true, but it's almost like this trust. Maybe it's like a trust thing too. Like we've kind of have a hard time trusting that bringing new people in, new builders, or otherwise we're connecting with other projects and stuff that's taking away instead of giving.
Yeah, on reputation, because like if I trust it, I got to stake my reputation on whoever I recommend it to, right? So that's a huge factor, and I think there were plenty of people who are willing to, come around the corner on Hex once price did well enough. Because if price is going up, even if people don't like the person behind it or whatever, it doesn't matter because price go up, right? Everybody's making money. But yeah, when price is chopping, it becomes a much harder pitch, especially when the rest of crypto is doing just fine. So incentive alignment, in Hex's days it was buy, hold, stake, price go up, right? So just it's a little bit more complex now with an ecosystem, but we will see. Jury is out, but I would say probably going into Q4 this year. By that point, it's one of these things where back in December, we had kind of a similar sentiment at the end of November, early December, going into the new year. We hit a low, price went up. As soon as we get near sack rate for most people, then boom, all of a sudden everybody gets happy again, and everybody's like, "Yay, we're going to the moon," So I think flipping that narrative isn't going to take too much, but it takes some building, and it takes some. The most important thing is no weak hands, right? So the people who have committed to the ecosystem, people who committed to the narrative of what's going on here, it's like, what's your investment thesis? Why you just changing that, right? And I understand, there's gains elsewhere. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I know that's not a popular opinion necessarily, but if you have other investments in crypto, that'll make it much easier to be a hodler, to be honest, because hey, there's not much action going on here, but my other stuff's doing fine, so I'm not selling here at least, right? Like, stopping the selling is probably the most important thing first.
Running out of sellers. Do you think we've run out of sellers with PulseChain?
I have no idea, but we can hope. So, it's just one of those things where it seemed like it should have been, but
have we not ran out of enough reasons to sell your bag 50% underwater?
Right? To me, the whole idea of doing that is just ridiculous. So I already got what I got for the ecosystem regardless,
I'm sure there's plenty of people who they have bills to pay. They're like, oh, okay, I thought this thing would happen a lot sooner. There's plenty of legit reasons.
I understand that.
I'm sorry, but I got to go. I get it.
De-investing a portion, is selling everything, be like, fuck this, I'm out, versus, hey, I got to sell 80%. I'm going to hodl that 20%, I understand that, but, hopefully it's done over time and not, cheated out in one move.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, I think that's the biggest thing, and I hope this year, early next year, within the next 6 to 12 months, I really hope that we're able to get, if nothing else, I mean, of course, selfishly, of course, everybody wants to make money, right? But I really want this place to survive. I want this place to thrive. I want everyone to be, instead of going against holding as a reward mechanism and just being like, nope, I'm going to take as much money from as much people as I can. And I'm not, this holding thing's not working, delayed gratification, whatever. I don't have time for that. I really hope that reverts into everyone is just comfortable enough to, again, be the best version of themselves, really start, contributing in a way. And instead of being kind of every person on it for themselves, we're we get back to that community of no, we have time, we have capital, we have enough. We're able to be comfortable enough to start helping everyone again and being positive again. And hey, we did get rich. Cool. Actually, it sucked for a while, but then it happened. I really hope that happens, so this community does get back to being, even better than it was before.
Yeah. And I think it is worth noting at the tough times, how the people that are in the ecosystem are responding, right? And if you get some people going a little crazy and going way too far in one direction, it's clearly not in line with any of the incentives of the community. It's okay, noted. Not that it's people can't change or whatever, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of the amount of if somebody kind of is hey, it's time to get out of the ecosystem or all this stuff, I'm just and then they try to come around 6 months later and be like, hey, I was always for this, I thought it was going to succeed, I knew it, I'm just Jesus Christ.
If we're doing really well, can we just maybe a lighter hug? It doesn't have to be a full embrace, but just a little bit. I get it, it was tough, but I
exactly. Because right, because it's one of these things where it's the more time somebody spends in the community positively after that too, right, the more that kind of makes up for stuff like that. But it's we'll see how it all pans out. So
I think we have so much potential. I don't say potential in this coping mechanism for the price hasn't went up yet, and everything looks, everything is, of course, every ecosystem has potential, but I really say potential when I'm talking about PulseChain, as in literally for months now, I've looked around and saw everything primed to the teeth of just man, if we just get some, if we just get some capital in, if we just get this bull market going, if we're just able to, keep it, hold this community like tightly and be like, man, do we just get some good news, a couple things go here and there. We've got everything around us. We built out this chain. We got plenty of people. Some people need to take breaks. Some people are going to leave. Some people are going to come back. But we have the personnel. We have the builders. We have the chain. We have the products. It's just, just apparently it takes time. That's what maybe the universe is saying right now.
Yep. Plenty of time. So, let's see what happens. But no, I'm always glad to jump on stream with you and see people like yourself who are adding to the ecosystem, not detracting from it. So I always love jumping on streams with people like that.
Thanks, man. No, I do feel for the creators out there sometimes of like, man, I can, one thing is dealing with, okay, the 15th question of, PulseChain is dead or Hex down 99%, whatever. That's fine. But it's like, it's when the community is just so down and you're just looking around like, man, I know there's plenty of stuff to be positive about, but again, that's where it comes to, I was telling you before, like I just try to avoid a lot of the, like whatever's going on. I don't even want to know. I don't care. Like there's something happening in the community that's like, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to, unless it's good information I can come and bring and tell people about and like show them the power of PulseChain. Most stuff I'd rather not even engage in. So hopefully everyone out there is just able to get as much peace as they can and less distraction and continue. Again, I don't want to see people who are positive and going out there putting in the work and then just kind of getting like, oh, they have to like, go through the muddy waters of Twitter. Like that sucks. Like that's kind of like, it's kind of like the, in the school, you got the disruptive, classroom. The teacher says, man, I just want the good students to learn. I just want them, like, I don't want them to take away from the rest of everyone else. And it's not like, again, I'm not, whoever's doing stuff, going through whatever, like, I know there's a lot of good intention and goodwill people out there that are just, everyone goes through a hard time every once in a while. So,
you need a team. You need a mixture of personality. It's all good, but like, team. What's the main like a team that has success, right? Because eventually, ultimately, we are all on the same team. If we're at least in agreement that we're behind PulseChain, right? I know there's even some people who aren't even behind PulseX, which is kind of hilarious to me. But it's like, okay, if we could all agree. Yeah, right. There you go. So if we can all agree at least that we're on the same side as Pulse, okay, good. We got a common ground. Now, okay, we're all going to come from different directions and have different things we want to build the ecosystem. Great. But, okay, like how do we get that alignment of, like that common thread between everything, because if you don't have a team even for that, then nothing's going to happen. So,
and until then, nobody has to engage in anything. You don't have to get on Twitter every day and look at stuff. You don't have to look at the price charts every day. You don't have to, nobody owes anybody anything. Well, I guess maybe certain professions and certain trading and stuff, maybe that's more
price charts, baby. You can't get away from the price charts no matter how bad they are.
That's what I was gonna say with creators too. It's like, it's easy to be like, well, just go take a break for a while and come back when the moon comes, come back when the green candles. Like, well, all that time I couldn't have created all the content. I could be out there helping people learn about the stuff.
Well,
and that's what sucks. It's like,
you'll be tense if you do. See, that's a good thing. That is the reward for the people who make out the hard times. Is like you will be 10 steps ahead of everybody else if you use that time wisely, right? So that is a huge incentive for people being early right now. I do think.
That too. I was just thinking of like just for the the streamers and creators and stuff out there. It's like for the community members who aren't streaming or whatever, doing shows and otherwise. It's much easier to be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take a break. I'm just going to go off for a few weeks. I'm not going to look at anything. I'm just going to disconnect, going to go, on vacation, whatever. But if you're out there, you're doing daily streams or you're doing regular streams or you're out there like trying to, spread the word. It's like, if you do that, like your whole, one of the biggest things you do, one of your biggest contributions is not going to be there anymore. So like you're in this place of like, well, I just, have to cultivate as much as I can.
Taking breaks is fine. It's a matter of, If you just wait to come tell the green candles, that's a little bit of a different story, I would say, because it's kind of like those people who only. Well, the funny thing is, I did see this. This is the last thing I'll say, but on this, but like somebody, I think somebody out there recently, I heard the sentiment of like, oh, we kind of forgot everybody who's streaming from the bear market, didn't we? And it's like, when we get into a bull market, a lot of people don't really care what happened before price went up.
I know.
So
that would be the counter. That would be the counterpoint. Is like, why not do that? Because most people aren't going to remember anyways.
Well, that's what most people will be incentivized to do, just because that's the easiest play. But also when you need to note who those people are when they do come back in, not because they're not trustable, because you do need to take it with a little bit more of a grain of salt. I think.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't have to be a crazy grain of salt. Just something.
I've seen plenty of people stream less or stop streaming or otherwise most of the bear market, and or a good portion of it. And to me, I don't know. I just kind of like, if you need to take a break, you don't feel like you can like bring your best right now, or you're just
the difference between a 6 month break, the difference between 6 month break and a 3 year break.
You got to bring everyone together, Charlie. You can't come back and be like, no, you better go back again. We don't want you.
Well, I mean, I won't be like, hey, go back to your, underneath your troll bridge. But, I'll be like, hey, interesting. Good to have this person on our side. Pay attention to that. But the narratives that they're trying to spin, is it something that I'm going to listen to? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. I think hopefully in that, if nothing else, in every vertical of delayed gratification and working hard through tough times and all that stuff in your own way. Again, everyone does it in their own way, but hopefully those people will get rewarded too. Maybe, if people become millionaires and people become 100x millionaires, that's cool too. I want everyone to win though.
Yeah, I mean, it happened with Hex, so that's part of the train. That's part of the journey.
Yeah, man. But anyways, great stream as usual. Appreciate you coming on, talking Ethereum, talking PulseChain, talking a little bit of Hex. We got to look at Hex there too, community. Otherwise, man, what else? What do you want to take us out on? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I'll just say thanks for having me on. People can follow me at Cultivate Crypto on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. But I'll be doing my stream here in about 10 minutes on Cultivate Crypto on YouTube. So hop on over. We'll be doing today. We're going to be talking about Solana and basically kind of how it's undervalued going into the ETH ETF. So kind of a little spin off of the subject that we talked about here a little bit with the ETH ETF. And kind of looking forward to, some altcoin ETFs, and then how are different altcoins in the crypto space going to be compared to Solana gains this bull market. So you can kind of be like, okay, it is going to be a benchmark crypto. So, it's kind of like, how did we judge gains against Bitcoin and Ethereum last cycle or the previous cycles? It'll be similar to Solana, I think. So going to be talking about all that, getting into some memes. So yeah, come over, enjoy the fun, jump in the live chat, and we'll look at some PulseChain among other coins as well.
That is Cultivate Crypto on YouTube. He's tagged in the description. And you got, is it Cultivate Crypto on Twitter as well?
Yep, Cultivate Crypto everywhere, baby.
And cultivatecrypto.com. Nice. All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We were out.